What is good, you guys? Welcome back to the Ball Online podcast. The season is now in full flow. We've had a pretty good sample size as to how the teams are playing right now. Um, how are you guys doing today? How do you feel about the season so far?
It's been going smoothly, but I mean, we've seen a lot of upsets, like some big upsets, but we'll get to those later in the episode.
I mean, COVID-wise, obviously doing great, but I mean, by my favorite team-wise, maybe not too great.
Yeah, I mean the Heat are struggling a little bit, but hopefully we can put that back together. Um, but now since we all watch our teams a lot, Tejas watches the Celtics. Me and Hudson obviously watch the Heat. Before we get into like the main topic of today's episode, I want to hear your guys' one league pass team or like one team apart from the team that you watch that you've been tuning into like a lot. So we'll start off with Tejas, then go to Hudson, then I'll go last. Which is that team that you've
Yeah,
been watching a lot apart from your?
yeah, I've been watching the Rockets a lot, man. Like, I underrated the hell out of them. Like, they're actually really good. Like, really good. Like, I didn't even expect it. They have a duo inside of a duo. Like, just think about that. They have the Harden Wood duo, who can start and like Wall will be there. But then they have Cousins come off the bench, and John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins are just lighting it up. Like they look like a really good team. Like in all honesty, and I've been just tuning in and watching every single Rockets game that I can. I didn't get to watch the last one against the Kings, but they've been really good, and I'm interested to see what they do with Harden now that they've got some sort of chemistry going. But
I mean, if I be honest, I'm watching most teams that have new players. Obviously, that goes with the Rockets, who are playing so good. I mean, I had them at the 9th seed because we thought that Harden was going to get traded, and if not, this chemistry is pretty good, like you said. I don't see a reason why they should trade Harden. I don't see a reason why Harden would still want to leave unless he's really like that annoying. But I mean, some teams also like the Wizards and the Suns and the Nets, and heck, the Wizards and Nets are going down to the wire right now. I'm like looking at the score, but mainly the Suns, I would say I've been watching a lot. Obviously CP3 and Devin Booker. Those are one of my top duos I love to watch right now. So I would say the main team is the Suns that I've been staying tuned into.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, obviously the Suns, the Rockets, very good options. I've been tuning into the Pelicans a lot. I really like this team. I've liked this team for a long time now. Wanted to see how they would work with Zion being back. Brandon Ingram is one of my favorite players in the NBA. Second in the Western Conference right now. They've been playing really, really well. Beat some great teams like Pelicans. I mean the Raptors. They beat the Raptors twice, uh, and they even beat the Milwaukee Bucks in the preseason. So I kind of knew this team was going to be very good. I didn't know they were going to be this good. But it's very refreshing to watch the Pelicans do their thing out there, and hopefully they can continue this run. Um, but let's move on to the actual game now, which is obviously the New Year is hit. Happy New Year to everyone, and we're going to be taking a look at every team's New Year resolution and trying to guess every team's New Year resolution. Um, we'll go in alphabetical order. This is an article from CBS Sports. Got to credit CBS Sports for this, and we're going to react to this. So, what do you guys think the Atlanta Hawks' New Year resolution was, according to CBS Sports?
um, well, I mean, it should be obvious, right? I mean, their New Year's resolution should be build a not build, contend so that we can make a playoff spot. That's what their resolution should be, and so far they're on track. So I mean, good for the Hawks. They've been playing really nicely. That's another team I've been like paying attention to a little bit, but they're on a roll so far. So
Yeah, the Hawks are doing really well, and if we're talking New Year's resolution, sometimes it's realistic, sometimes it's not. So I'm going to be going with like Trae Young being a better defensive player. If he was a better defensive player, this Hawks team is literally a contender to be a top 5 seed. But with that lack, I mean, obviously not too great, but also like to have patience in themselves. Obviously, with Okongwu, Collins, and Trey, you got to wait a couple of years till your stars develop, and then maybe make a big push for the playoffs. But for now, I'm agreeing with Tejas saying at least contend for the 7 or 8 seed.
Okay, now both of them are very good points, but that was not what CBS Sports had. So I'm gonna give you a hint of what they had. So obviously, we know the Hawks are very good on one end of the floor, and not so good on the other end of the floor. So
So I'm
which
I'm
end?
guessing the resolution is probably get better defensively.
Yes. So obviously, we know that the Hawks on offense um are very good. But on defense, they're not forcing turnovers. They're fouling a lot. They're getting hurt in transition. So defensively, Um, once Clint Capella settles in and Okongwu gets healthy, I think the defense should kick up, is what CBS is saying, and I agree with them. But obviously, what you guys said is also completely true. For the Hawks to make that playoff push, and patience is key for the Hawks as well. With the Boston Celtics, Tejas, I know you're a Celtics fan. Um, this is I'll give you a hint for this one. This New Year resolution is mainly talking about one of your best players. Um, it's one of your top three players. So if you can guess it, then what do you think it is?
Okay, I'm sorry, I was paying attention to the Wizards Nets game, and KD just missed the game winner. But that's neither here nor there. The Celtics' New Year's resolution should probably be to get Kemba back at full strength. This is a no-brainer for me. Get Kemba back. Use the $28 million trade exception to get some nice role players that they can use off the bench, and strengthen this team depth-wise, because that's what they need for a championship run.
Yeah, that's what I'm also gonna say. Like, get Kemba back as soon as possible if they want to be making a run. They just Tatum hit a game winner against the Pistons. So he's been showing out, and he's looking like an MVP, honestly. So that's great for them. But so if they can get Kemba back, get Jeff T come off the bench, that'll be really great for them. I'm pretty sure also one of the rookies, Peyton Pritchard, if I said that right, had an insane game a couple games ago. So great for them, but I think mainly getting Kemba back. So I'm gonna throw one out there saying get a healthier team, even though it's only one player. So mainly just get Kemba back, try to make a run for the playoffs.
Yeah, Hudson was actually spot on. It was just a healthier lifestyle and getting Kemba completely rejuvenated. Obviously, we know the Celtics ceiling is probably much higher with him on the floor than without. And if they want to contend for a championship, Tejas already said last episode that they're not contenders. But if they want to contend for a championship, if they want to even have hopes of contending, then Kemba Walker needs to be healthy.
Hold on. So I just want to say one more thing before we move on about the Celtics. Jaylen Brown has been playing out of his mind. Like right now, I know Hudson made the point of Tatum might be an MVP candidate. Jaylen Brown, I think, is averaging like 28 points a game or some absurd number. He's like shooting the ball so efficiently. It's just off the charts, but I really wouldn't put Tatum as the MVP right now of that team. Just saying.
Yeah, for sure. Brown has been really really slept on player actually, Jaylen Brown. And if there was an All-Star team, he would definitely be in it this year. For the Brooklyn Nets, this New Year resolution is something that has been, it's erasing a trend that has been put on their star players' name for a long time. I might give it away. What do you think it is?
My bad, Hudson. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I definitely thought that this was going to be a huge issue right when these two stars signed with each other, and also this past season where both of them didn't really play much, meaning obviously with the surgeries and injuries. But I think that it could be chemistry. Now, it's been proven that there is no chemistry problems right now. But if this was a New Year's resolution for last week when they played only like 3 games, then I would definitely say try to have the best chemistry as possible. And like if one game they get mad at each other, just quickly, as soon as you can, try to sort that out. If I'm the Nets management.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think their resolution should be to handle chemistry to an extent. But it's gonna be tough between those two. I always feel like those two I always feel like Kyrie always has a problem with chemistry issues, but you know, I think that's what their New Year's resolution should be, but we'll see. I think this next team is loaded though.
Yep, it was definitely the chemistry issues. And it seems like they don't really have those issues right now. I mean, they look like they gel pretty well. You know, the teammates have been talking really. They've been saying a lot of good stuff about Kyrie and KD. So, I think we're gonna really see the character of this team once they face a lot of adversity and like they once they lose a string of games. They just lost to the Wizards just now. But we'll have to see how that chemistry holds up during like times of like adversity. But this team is very dangerous on paper. For the Charlotte Hornets, obviously this the resolution caters to a lot of one group of their guys. And yeah, I mean we all know that the Hornets are a very exciting team to watch. But what do you think the resolution should be for 2021?
I think it's pretty obvious. The resolution should be to develop the young guys, let them play more minutes, and try to make a playoff spot. They're really interesting. You know, we saw LaMelo Ball struggle for the first few games, but he's starting to pick it back up, to like what we expected him to do. Miles Bridges has been really good. I know Devontae Graham is on a shooting slump right now, but I think if he picks it up, the way Rozier's playing has been surprising, but Hayward's been playing really well too. They've got a lot of nice pieces. If they just put it all together, let the young core develop, they'll definitely make the playoffs this year.
I mean, if this is how they're going to keep playing for the rest of the season, easily playoff contender right there. Terry Rozier is having a breakout season right now, and I think what the Hornets could be trying to look to is Terry Rozier isn't a veteran type player, but you could sort of look him to mentor LaMelo Ball. He's been kind of struggling. Now, before the draft, I'm not sure if I said on the podcast, but I really did think on the inside LaMelo Ball was not going to be as good as James Wiseman or Anthony Edwards. And nobody's really talking about Anthony Edwards right now. It's mainly LaMelo. Obviously, that goes because of Lonzo and his dad. But I think that LaMelo hasn't really been playing well. And you see LaMelo, I think basically what I'm trying to say is I'm agreeing with Tejas. He's getting a ton of minutes, but he's still not putting up as many points. His 3-point shots aren't very consistent. SportsCenter was making a post saying LaMelo's on fire after making like 3 threes. And, I mean, they're all going crazy for him, but he's really not playing too well.
All right. Wait, just want to ask you guys a question because both of you said the Hornets will make the playoffs. You think they'll make the playoffs this year?
I'm going to say no.
As much as I wish they do, I don't think they will. They might make the playing game, but I don't think they'll make the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they'll make the playoffs either. But just to play devil's advocate, I do want to defend LaMelo. Over the past, 3 or 4 games, he's been playing really well. Especially, against the Mavericks, he had a 22.8 rebound game. He's been, settling in. The first couple of games was rough, but he looks good now. It just took him some time to settle in. But the Hornets team is correct, like developing their young guys is their resolution. And to Devontae Graham, LaMelo, and Terry Rozier, I still don't think that they can have those 3 guards on the same roster. I think they'll have to eventually trade one of them. But for now, I guess it's cool because they're not really, trying to do anything special. Yeah, it's obviously, catering to their young guys. The next team is the Chicago Bulls. And Chicago Bulls, I'm trying to think of a hint for this. So obviously, we know like the Bulls goals. The Bulls last year it was a bad season. They brought in a new coach. They brought in Patrick Williams. They brought in a new GM. And it's been a rough start so far. So what do you think their New Year resolution is?
I think their New Year's resolution should be to just develop the young guys. I mean, you've got Patrick Williams, who looks really nice, Zach Levine, scoring machine. You know, the Bulls are one of the sneaky teams that could get into that play-in tournament, but it's just to develop the young guys, I guess, and maybe improve on the defensive end. They've been giving up a lot of points recently.
Yeah, I'm also going to be agreeing. I mean, if you look at their starting lineup, you have Kobe White, who was drafted last year. You have Zach Levine, who's a bit older, but he's still on the younger end. And then you have Patrick Williams, of course, drafted with the 4th pick this year. Lauri Markkanen, who was just drafted a couple of years ago, and then Wendell Carter Jr., who is still kind of young. So, of course, this team has to develop, stay patient, and try to just get their young stars into the NBA type caliber play. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here. Basically, just develop their young stars is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this one actually says stay confident, which is I don't really know how to take that because I think it's because they've had a rough start so far. They do want to make a playoff push, but I don't know if they'll be able to. And what do you guys think about their front court? Because do you think because Larry Markkinen is an unrestricted free or is a restricted free agent this year, and I want to talk about him real quick. Bring him back if a team offers about 20 million. Do you think the Bulls should match or no? What do you think his value is right now?
I think Lauri Markkanen can easily be, especially in Billy Donovan's system. He's been playing really well. I think the Bulls should match regardless. Like, I think he's worth almost that 15 to 20 million range because he's a really nice shooter. He's got length. You know, he's what we thought was a unicorn, like back when his rookie year. Like he hasn't shown that as of recently, but like I expect him to play really well throughout this entire season. I think he's worth around that 15 to 20, and the Bulls have to match regardless. They don't really have that much cap. I'm sure they have a lot of cap, which is why they should try and match.
Hudson,
Now,
yeah, go Hudson.
All right, my bad. So this comes down to a couple things for me. I think that it depends how you can't really determine now to me. I mean, they've only played like 4 games now. It depends how Levine plays with him, of course, because obviously the Bulls aren't letting him go. And speaking of Levine, he just put up like 21 in the first quarter against the Mavericks. And it depends how that duo does, and honestly, how Lauri Markkanen does in general. It also depends on which power forwards / centers are on the market. Depending on whether those certain players decline or accept their team option or player option, whatever it is, and also how much money they're throwing at Lauri Markkanen. So to me, I can't really determine. But if we're talking about 20 million, I would say probably bring him back for now. But like I said, I'm gonna have to wait till the end of the season until I determine anything about bringing him back or not, and on which type of money.
And last thing before we move on to the next team, do you think they should build around Zach Levine still, or look to move him on because he's kind of older than some of their other young guys?
Honestly, no, you can go.
No, go ahead.
I asked if they should look to trade Zach Levine because he might be leaving when his contract is up, and he's a little bit older than every other young guy on their team.
I think they should keep Zach Levine at all costs. Dude is a stud. Like, he's your only offense that you have. Like, Kobe White's gonna develop, yeah, but Zach Levine is the majority of your scoring. Like, you have to keep him at all costs. This is what I think.
I mean, yeah, if they can get the right offer, then I think definitely there's a chance that they trade him just because of how the Bulls have not been doing well, of course, throughout the past couple of years. But if you're trying to win a championship, I think we all know Zach Levine has to be at minimum the second option. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do with him. But for now, I think, like Tay just said, probably to keep him at all costs.
But so for Zach Levine, yeah, I think they should build around him because unless he wants out, because in that case they should trade him. But I think he's a very good player, and I don't really think you're gonna get anyone for his value coming back. Moving on to the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers' New Year's resolution is centered around one player, according to CBS Sports. Um, so which player do you think the Cavaliers' New Year resolution is on, and what do you think that it's about?
Go ahead, Hudson.
All right. Well, if I think about that one player, I'm thinking that it could be Colin Sexton. Andre Drummond has been playing really well recently. But I'm thinking it's either Colin Sexton or there's a chance to me that it's Kevin Love due to how there was rumors that he was going to request a trade and like preferably to the Blazers or something or the Timberwolves where it all started. But I think that there's a chance that it's on Colin Sexton just because he's obviously one of the young dudes and if I'm the Cavs, I want him to stay with us. But it could be on Kevin Love, honestly, just because of how CBS is type of stuff. But I'm gonna be going
It is on
try
Kevin
to.
Love. It is on Kevin Love.
Oh, okay, it is on Kevin Love. Then maybe try to convince him to stay. Although I don't I don't really know why Kevin Love would want to leave on how they're doing right now.
If I'm being honest, I think that. Oh, my bad, serious. I just think the Cavs should just trade. Like they just have to trade Kevin Love
Yeah,
away.
I agree.
They like that amount of money. You're just letting walking out the door. Like if you trade him, you can get a valuable asset out of it. Maybe even like a first round pick. You know, like, and then you'll get cap out of that. You know, maybe you can go get someone in free agency, get something out of it instead of just letting him walk. You know.
That's true. I
go.
My bad. I was just gonna say I completely forgot about his contract. So if they can bring the salary down on that, get like a pick or two out of that, then that'll be a great move for Cleveland.
They're saying that they have to lower their demands on him because apparently the Cleveland Cavaliers are valuing Kevin Love too much, which is why they haven't been able to trade him. So what do you think Kevin Love would be worth? Like, would he be worth like obviously not like an all-star, but maybe like I'd probably say like a couple role players and a couple picks or something like that because I don't think Kevin Love has that much value anymore.
Okay, if I'm being honest, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I'm pretty sure Kevin Love's contract is what, around $28 million. Is it around that? I'm pretty sure it's around that.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Boston's trade exception is $28 million, just out of the blue. I'm pretty sure Boston might throw a first round pick. You know, maybe someone like Romeo Langford. And that
Wait.
trade could possibly happen. But I doubt it happens. I'm just saying, like you could get maybe a young.
It's 31.
Player
It's 31.
Yeah, a young player and maybe a first round pick. That's your like best option. At like that's your best trade.
You think Kevin Love?
I think Kevin Love.
You think Kevin Love would fit well on Boston?
I don't think he. I'm not saying he would. I'm not saying I want him on Boston. I'm just saying like he's worth a young player and a first round pick.
If I be honest, it's already a bit of an issue with Tristan Thompson and Daniel Tice.
It
might be kind of bad bringing in another power forward with about the same value. Yeah.
Yeah. So that Celtics big lineup right now is not.
I don't know where you would. I don't know where you would play Kevin Love. I don't know where you'd play Kevin Love because you have Tatum at the 4, Brown at the 3. If you put him at the 5, your defense is going to be terrible. And that was an issue that you already had last year. You brought in Tristan Thompson to fix that, but I mean, it hasn't really worked out so far. I don't know. I think for Kevin Love, I don't know which team. I always say this team. I always say Kevin Love on Portland. I want to see him on Portland.
Yeah, I think he'd fit well on Portland. I think he'd fit well.
Because you put Rocco at the 3, and then you bring Derrick Jones Jr. off the bench with Melo. Have Kevin Love at the 4. I think that's a dangerous team.
Yeah,
that is also, but it's also depending on who they would have to give up because I think that there's a chance that they could want Derrick Jones Jr. back, but the Blazers really need Derrick Jones Jr. From how defense is doing. You saw him; he was locking up LeBron the other night. So Derrick Jones Jr. is an actually really underrated, valuable piece for the Trailblazers. So is he for the Heat, honestly.
Yeah, the Cavs actually, when Derrick Jones Jr. was with the Heat, obviously I'm a Heat fan, so when he was about to be a free agent, they were talking about the Cavs were interested in Derrick Jones Jr. So I think
I saw that
something like that maybe could maybe it would work out. I don't know. Kevin Love, I think, should be traded. and I think we're all in consent. We all have a consensus on that, especially due to his contract and his age. Next team is the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks, um, it's their resolution is more on what happened as a team this year. They've done really bad in this aspect of basketball, and they have exceeded. So what have underachieved?
Well, for the Mavericks, I think it's easy. Their resolution should be try to contend for a championship right now, get Porzingis healthy, and just try to contend for a championship because you have one of those. You have probably the best up and coming player in the league right now, Luka Doncic. So that's what their resolution should be.
My bad. All right. So I also think that, but I mean, like, also something I'm thinking of is like just play better basketball. Honestly, you see how Luka Doncic is shooting right now. I'm pretty sure he's like a worse. It was something like JaVale McGee is more 3-pointers
He's
made.
He's 2 for 21 from 3.
2 for 21. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's kind of bad. So, especially for a player that I picked to win MVP. Many people picked to win MVP, honestly. I'm pretty sure he was leading the odds to win it. And I had the Dallas Mavericks as the 3 or the 4 seed. I was debating them on putting them at the 3 seed. I mean, obviously now they're doing really awful. I mean, really awful. Luka Doncic is out and they're nearly losing to the Bulls. I mean, obviously Kristaps is out too, but like, I mean, come on now. If your team other than Kristaps and Luka is not able to beat the Bulls, if we're talking about Chicago, then not good. But I mean, the Dallas Mavericks, you see how they're playing right now? They're not playing good basketball at all.
I have a question for you guys. How much longer are you willing to give Kristaps Porzingis, like with his injury concerns? When do you think about moving him on?
Until the trade deadline, honestly,
Yeah.
to me.
I've been seeing a lot of speculation that he's coming back early January, but if he gets hurt again, like I don't know what you do with him. Like I just don't. He's a unicorn, but he just keeps getting hurt, man.
Yeah, obviously, I think Kristaps on that team makes it so good. Like that stretch 5, Kristaps, which is why he's called the unicorn. But I'm with Hudson. I think one more injury, and if he gets another injury this season, I think we got to think about moving him on because he would. Their ceiling isn't. They're not going to win a championship with just Luka on that team. He needs another co-star. Yeah. Moving on to the next team. One of the teams that has been surprisingly struggling this year, the Denver Nuggets. What do you think's been going on with them? What do you think they need to fix?
I think the thing with the Nuggets is they just need to develop chemistry. Like that's what they're missing right now, and I think they'll be fine. They just need to play games. But like have Jokic and Murray get used to the setting, and they'll be all right. I don't see any problem with this team. They've been struggling, but they'll get it back on track.
I mean, yeah, I'm saying the same thing. I mean, if I'm them, I'm trying to get back on track. They're not playing good basketball at all. Jokic is doing great, but Jamal Murray is kind of doing decent too. But like in general, Michael Porter Jr.'s out for I forgot what it was. Was it a couple of days or a couple of weeks? Either way, they're not playing good at all. So they're gonna need all their guys to step up. At least each of them. They're gonna need all of them to step up a little bit.
Yeah. I think Jamal Murray has to step up. I mean, he's doing well right now, but I picked this guy. He's one of my most improved player picks, and for the Nuggets to be successful, I think he has to jump up to 25 points a game. He's averaging 21 right now. I don't think that's enough. I think 25. He needs to average 25 points a game because he's not a facilitator. He's not a guy that's going to pass the ball that much. So we need him to score because Jokic can't do it on his own like many other players. I think Jamal has to step up to 25 points a game. I think losing Jeremy Grant has hurt them a lot. I don't think a lot of people are talking about that, especially when defending guys like Kawhi, LeBron. You need a guy that you can throw on them and they'll hold their own. Slow them down. And Jeremy Grant was that guy. And now they don't really have anyone. Their defense is terrible now without Jeremy Grant.
I just want to make this one quick point. Jeremy Grant has been playing his butt off in Detroit, and I don't think people have been noticing. I think he's on a stretch of 20 point per games, like a stretch of 5. Like he's just been going off like every single day. I don't think people have been noticing that he's
He's
doing
averaging more
really
than Jamal
well.
Murray.
Yeah,
He's averaging more than Jamal Murray.
he's on exactly. That's what I'm saying. So like did the Nuggets make a mistake not keeping Jeremy Grant? We'll never know. But I mean, to be honest, I think they did. I mean,
Jeremy Grant, apparently it came out that Jeremy Grant, he wanted a bigger role.
Bigger
But
role,
apparently
yeah.
the Nuggets offered him the same money that the Pistons did. He just wanted, I guess, a bigger role. Which, I mean, I can't blame him. He's averaging 23 points a game right now. So
Yeah.
Jeremy Grant could win Most Improved Player.
For sure,
Or bring
for
honest
sure.
to each other. But yeah, moving on. We're I mean, as a coincidence, we're talking about the Pistons right now. So let's talk about their team. So their New Year's resolution, according to CBS Sports, is stacked. Is talking about one position in which they have too many players. And which position do you think this is?
Yeah, they have too many centers. They have Jahlil Okafor, Mason Plumlee. Who else they have? They have the rookie
Isaiah Stewart,
Yeah. Who
Blake
else?
Griffin placed on center.
Yeah, exactly. So they just have too many bigs. Like
And they have
should-
they have Dwayne Dedman.
they have who?
Dwayne Dedman.
Oh, I don't know if they do, but like they just have a lot of big. I noticed the one thing with Detroit is they don't have a lot of shooting. I literally watched the game today. They played really tough, but they just don't have. They don't have a lot of shooting. Except for like Svi Mikhailuk. Besides him, like, and even Sadiq, I would say Sadiq Bey has been a surprise, man. Dude is shooting the lights out. Like, I'm pretty sure he shot like 5 of 6 from 3 today. Like, it's freaking insane. But the thing is, they just don't have enough consistent shooting to make it to the playoffs. I think that's their problem.
I mean,
Dwayne Dedman, before you go, Hudson, Dwayne Dedman got waived by the Pistons. So
okay, well that takes like one of too many centers off their thing because they have honestly too many. But I'm not really sure what they could want. I mean, New Year's resolution, they want Blake Griffin to be in his prime, obviously. But like, I'm not really sure. Probably like get less centers, honestly, because I'm not really sure what else they could need. I'm just gonna. I don't even know, honestly.
yeah, I mean, with the Pistons, I mean, I don't know. I thought this team looked okay. I don't think this team was terrible against the Celtics. Sages, you probably watched that game. What do you think about the Pistons in that game? Because I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But what do you think about that? Yeah.
Friday night, they were killing the Celtics. The Celtics had no idea what was coming their way. They were probably drunk as hell from New Year's celebrating, and they just took an L, like just straight up. It was a schedule loss. But like today, both teams shot the lights out. But the thing is with the Pistons, they just can't shoot consistently enough. They have the playmakers, they have the positions, like they just cannot shoot consistently well enough, and that is their problem. This is why they won't make it to the postseason. It's because they can't consistently shoot the ball, and also they don't have a person where they can just give the ball to and go get a bucket. Jeremy Grant is trying to be that person, but it's not going to really work out when you have Jeremy Grant trying to run your offense. When you have someone else like, I don't know, like Jimmy like someone else in the league like Butler, Leonard. Jeremy Grant is not the guy you want to give the ball to, which is another problem with the Pistons. But they just got to develop their young core. Killian Hayes is really nice. Sadiq Bey, I just talked about him, shooting the lights out. You just got to develop your young core and they'll be fine.
All right, you mind if so I have to go eat dinner now. So would you guys, there's 2 things. You guys can do it by yourself, but if that's something, then I can come back in like 20 to 30 minutes, I think, and like do like a second recording to finish it.
You just want to jump in between, like just eat dinner and just come back.
All right. Yes. All right. So yeah, I'll just come back when I'm done.
Yeah.
And
just cut this part out though. Just make sure you cut this part out.
Yeah, I will. All right. Yeah, I'll be back soon.
All right, cool. Moving on to the next team, Golden State Warriors. Man, how one player can change everything. Nobody knew Klay Thompson was this valuable to the Warriors until we just saw the atrocious shooting of Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins. What do you
Yeah.
think of offense?
Kelly Oubre has just been off to a terrible start shooting wise, and Wiggins, he just can't shoot either. They're trying. What they're trying to do is they're trying to have Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins play like Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, and just come off screens and shoot the ball. Instead, they need to play like what they used to have Steph run in Mark Jackson's offense, and have him be the top of the screen, set 2 screens, and let Curry play a lot more on ball. Because Curry cannot play off ball, because that's basically telling Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre to go shoot all the time. Because if Curry gets blocked off by a screen, they're gonna have to they're gonna be forced to take a jump shot, and they just can't do it right now. They're not Kevin Durant, they're not Klay Thompson, so that's what's happening with them right now. But they'll pick it up. Steve Kerr's a good coach. Stephen Curry, we always talk about Steph, how he's one of the great players in the league. They'll definitely find a way to figure it out.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think the problem with their team is they're trying to make Kelly Oubre play Klay Thompson's role, and that's not who he is. Kelly Oubre is not a spot up shooter. Klay Thompson is one of the best players in NBA history.
They're trying to make Wiggins play Kevin Durant's role and have
it's crazy.
Oubre play Klay Thompson's role. Like, it's just not going to work.
Klay Thompson is one of the best catch and shoot shooters in NBA history. Kelly Oubre is a slasher. Why are we having Kelly Oubre shoot threes? Yeah. Kelly Oubre needs to cut to the basket more, because I haven't seen him cut that often. Kelly Oubre's strength is when he's cutting to the basket and finishing strong, shooting threes. Because when they double Steph Curry, they're just daring everyone else to shoot. Steph Curry literally, like, he'll get doubled off of Kelly Oubre's man, and Kelly Oubre will just be standing there on the 3-point line, waiting to shoot a three and just missing it eventually, instead of cutting to the rim and moving. Because when Steve Kerr, the thing about Steve Kerr's offense is, I know a lot about this offense is because the Miami Heat last year borrowed from the Warriors offense when they were really good. It was full of cutting, moving, off-ball screening, dribble handoffs, all this stuff, right?
Yep.
Problem with this is that a lot of these players are not cutting as much as, even Klay Thompson, is great of a shooter he was cutting to the basket. I don't see Kelly Oubre and Wiggins doing that.
I don't see it either, But they will figure it out. This team will figure it out. They're just too good not to figure it out,
Yeah, I think they should. I hope that they do figure it out for Steph Curry's sake. But moving on to the next team, the Houston Rockets. Now, obviously, this is they're. I'm going to ask you this question: do you think they should keep James Harden and try to keep him, or do you think they should trade him away?
Look, there's 2 years on his contract. They should definitely try and keep him, but I mean, if he asks out, then I don't know what you would do. You have to trade him then, and I guess Philly's a landing spot. We've heard Darian say multiple times in our chat, trade him for Siakam, because Siakam's playing bad. We'll get to Toronto later, but I figured if
I'm the Rockets.
Huh?
No, if I'm the Rockets, I'm not doing Siakam, because Siakam has shown absolutely nothing for me.
Yep, absolutely. We'll get
no
to
improvement
Siakam
whatsoever.
Yeah, but
I was going to ask you a question. Since you're a Celtics fan, Jaylen Brown, are you willing to give him up for James Harden?
Not a chance. Not a chance. I'm sorry, man. There's just too much potential in Jaylen Brown, I see. Like, he's played so well over these past few games. Like, he's just shooting the ball lights out, man. And like I just feel like Harden's ISO system wouldn't really fit, and the chemistry wouldn't really be there as well, because the thing about Tatum and Brown is they're like Boston homegrown, man. Like, they're homegrown, home-built Boston, and they just mesh so well together. Like, they know where each other, they know what they're doing, and I just feel like they have to keep Brown. Like, there's too much potential in him, and I said this before in a like Harden deal. If the Celtics were ever to do a deal for Harden, Brown, Tatum, and Smart would be off limits straight away. They're untouchable for any trade because those three players themselves are so valuable to that team.
Would you consider trading for James Harden? Would you want James Harden on the Celtics?
I've like pondered this question over and over. If it doesn't mean giving up Smart, Tatum, and Brown, then yes. But if that means giving up like one of those three, then absolutely no, I don't want Harden.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I think Harden is a very, polarizing player because he's so good, but it's just his attitude that a lot of people are turned off by him. And I don't know if it's gonna be worth the risk. We'll talk about Harden later because I have something to say about him for my team.
Okay.
But let's talk about the Indiana Pacers. Tejas, they've been a very good team. Hudson, if you're back, they've been a very good team. I think second in the Eastern Conference. And Sabonis has been playing out of his mind. But they're just a very underrated team. But what do you think they need to do to lock to a contender?
Well, for first, Indiana needs to like trade someone. They've got they're not there yet. They're gonna be out they're gonna be missing T.J. Warren for a few weeks. But this team is so underrated, man. And I watched the Celtics play them twice. Victor Oladipo is back. And I don't know if most people have seen it. He's got that wiggle in his step. He's getting to his spots. He's hitting jumpers left and right. He's back. And I think that's a scary thing for the league because Sabonis has been playing really well. Miles Turner is a crazy rim protector. Like, I think he's averaging 4 blocks a game. Like, that's outrageous. Like, they're just off. They're playing really well right now. But the problem with Indiana that I think is with most teams is, can they keep this consistency up? I don't think they can. They will definitely make the playoffs, but I don't know if they can keep up this consistency, especially with T.J. Warren out. But we'll see.
Okay, for the Los Angeles Lakers, obviously, they're favorites for the title. In order to be firm favorites, though, I'm gonna have to see them put away, the big. I want to see them against the Clippers. I want to see them have the Clippers number because I think they're the biggest threat to them in the Western Conference. And if they can get over that area, if they beat the Clippers, they'll be favorites to win the championship. They already are favorites, but they'll be even more favorites. So I want to see them get the Clippers number, and make sure that in the regular season. Obviously they weren't able to face them in the playoffs, but still, like, I want to see the Lakers, adjust appropriately for the Clippers. For the Memphis Grizzlies, obviously Ja Morant has been injured. He's out 3 to 5 weeks. Jaren Jackson is going to be coming back soon. Justice Winslow is probably going to be coming back soon. So they have significant injuries to 3 of their main guys. What's the next step for them? Are they rebuilding? Are they contending for the playoffs? What should they do?
They should. Well, okay, they've got a nice young team. I think they just need to get all their pieces healthy again, and they'll be set.
I mean, yeah, I think that they gotta wait till next season to see what they want to do with Jaren Jackson Jr. and stuff. Obviously he's out for the year. I'm gonna say, I might be wrong. I think he's out for the year. But at least most of the year. But I know that Ja Morant is obviously going to carry this team. He's injured right now, though. I think he's out for a couple weeks. So with all their injuries that they're facing, maybe just tank this year, try to get a high draft pick. With 2 of their best players out for a little while, and then after that, maybe next season try to reevaluate and see where you are in that position at the end of the year. Just see what you want to do after that.
Yeah, I completely agree. When Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson comes back, they'll be definitely in the hunt for that playing game. but they should also try to rebuild at the same time. Get a higher draft pick so they can draft other young guys. I like their draft this year. Desmond Bain looks really good. I don't know if you guys have been tuning into Desmond Bain. He looks really good. I like Desmond Bain.
Yeah, I saw the Grizzlies last Wednesday.
Yeah.
They play
Yeah, just got
tough.
something to say.
Yeah, the Grizzlies play tough, man. Like I watched them Wednesday. They play tough.
Yeah, they do. They do. They do. They really do play tough. And speaking of another team that is supposed to play tough, they're known to play tough. Miami Heat, and I'm gonna go last because I have a lot to say about this team. Um, they're 2-3 right now. What do you guys think the Miami Heat should do to cement themselves as like best in the conference? Because whether you believe their run was a fluke or not, they're still a very good team. But what do you think they should be doing to be the best in the conference?
They need to get a healthy Jimmy Butler back. Jimmy Butler's been, ragged with ankle soreness, all that stuff. They need to get him back healthy, and once they do that, they'll be set. I think good enough for a playoff run. But to me, the other thing is they need to make a trade. I don't think the young guys they don't have that much. I know Precious is really nice, but they need to try and get someone that'll help round up their bench core because Dragic is the only scoring option off the bench because Tyler Hero is starting right now. So they need Jimmy back as soon as possible, and I think sooner or later they might have to start Goran Dragic or get another bench piece.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go in a second, but I just want to say, this isn't a confirmed source, but I just got a report that the Clippers are exploring a potential trade for Kyle Lowry. Obviously, he would become their point guard that Kawhi would want, but moving on because that's just a random report that just popped up. But I think that the Heats definitely, like you said, need a healthy Jimmy Butler back. He didn't play in either of the, or no, hold on. Did he play in the? I'm confused. We played the Maverick. All right, so he got injured in the game before, but he didn't play in either of the Milwaukee matchup games. We lost by 40-1, and then we won in the other, which proves that we really did not need Jimmy. But then he played in that Mavericks game. He looked like he was at -%. Honestly, it honestly did not seem like he was ready at all. But yeah, I think that we definitely need a healthy Jimmy Butler back.
Listen, if I'm Pat Riley, I'm getting on the phone. Get that guy, who I don't know who the GM of the Rockets is, but we need James Harden. I'm willing to give up
What?
anyone
Hold on. Who would you give up? Who would you give up?
besides Bam and Jimmy.
You'd even give up Bam?
No, besides Bam or Jimmy. I would give
Heck
up anyone
no.
besides Bam or Jimmy.
Heck no.
I would. Listen, Hudson, I know you're a Heat fan as well. Let me tell you why. The problem with this team, in my opinion, the reason why our ceiling isn't as high as what it can be is because Jimmy Butler in the regular season, he wants to get his teammates involved, but we don't have time for all that. He wants to, be passive. He doesn't want to be aggressive. Jimmy Butler, for some reason, only turns this up in the playoffs. It's fine. But for the regular season and for, down the stretch, if we need someone to create a shot, because I watched that Mavericks game, our offense was terrible because we kept relying on threes. When the threes were not falling, we needed someone to drive to the lane, draw a foul. Jimmy Butler wasn't able to do that. We needed someone to create his own shot. Jimmy Butler's jump shot is very suspect, so he's not a three-point shooter. He's a shot creator, but he's not elite at shot creation. He's a guy that's going to put his head down and drive to the rim, which is fine. Like someone like a Bradley Beal, someone like a James Harden. The reason I'm saying James Harden instead of Bradley Beal is because he's on the market right now. We need someone that can take over when the threes are not falling because he wants to come to the Heat. He wants out of Houston. Houston are trying to find a suitor. Anyone besides Bam or Jimmy, I'm willing to give up.
Even Tyler Hero.
Yeah, you can listen, Tyler Hero is good, but he does not have James Harden potential. We're trying to win right now. Jimmy Butler is already up there in age. He's 31, about to be 32. We don't have time to develop young guys anymore. We need to win.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And another thing is we really, really miss Jay Crowder because Mo Harkless is not a stretch four. I don't know why we got scammed into thinking he was a stretch four. He's shooting. I haven't seen him make a three since preseason. We need a stretch four. Um, and if we can get a stretch four off the buyout market or from the trade market, then so be it. But we need a guy that can shoot three in the power forward position because right now they're just sagging off of Mo Harkless and Iguodala. Hudson, you got something to say?
But is that where at the power forward spot, is that where Precious comes in a couple of years?
What do you say?
In the power forward spot, you said that we need like a better power forward?
We need a power forward that can stretch the floor because it doesn't fit our offense to have a power forward that doesn't do that. That's like our offense is very reliant on Bam at the elbow or at the top of the key, doing dribble handoffs, very similar to what the Warriors do, and they have players that can spot up around them, and they have a player that can drive to the rim. Unfortunately, whoever our power forward is right now, whether that be Iguodala or Mo Harkless, is providing absolutely nothing offensively. So we need someone who can stretch the floor, so he can actually provide some shooting because we don't have that right now. Kelly Olynyk is a center. Myers Leonard is a center.
That's what I think Precious can do if he gets mentored by Bam a little bit.
Yeah, but the thing about Precious is that Spo tries to use him as a Bam replacement, like someone that can play Bam's role. Off Precious, he doesn't seem to think that him and Bam can play together.
If you look at the Heat, you saw that they did run Bam at the 5 a lot in the bubble. So I think that there's a chance that they could have Precious or let's say starting lineup as Hero, Duncan, Jimmy, Precious, and Bam, or if they want to throw Avery Bradley in there if Jimmy's out, whatever it is, I think that they could try to move Bam to the 5 and have Precious play the 4. And when Precious isn't in the game, you move Bam to the 4 and maybe have like Myers Leonard at the 5, some type of rotation like that. But I think that Precious is good enough to be on the court with Bam and also run the court.
They're very, they don't like to throw their players into the fire right away. They like to, take their time and develop them. That's why we saw Bam's first year, he was playing behind Whiteside, and they got rid of Whiteside and put Bam at the, starting spot.
One thing that I'm noticing is that that's not what they did with Kendrick Nunn. They saw what he could do, and he started straight away for the rest of the season. Then they started Dragic in the playoffs, and then right after, and then he got injured a bit in the regular season. Then Nunn didn't really see. He's not seeing too much. I should say he's not really seeing as much playing time as he did last year when he was starting. But Hero, he came behind. He came behind some other guys. So, but with Kendrick Nunn, that's not really what they did, and I think that playing him behind Bam could also be a good move for them.
Okay, but let's move on to the next team, which is the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I just have one question for both of you. What do you think this team needs to do? Because a lot of times we know what this team is about. Very good in the regular season, very bad in the playoffs is what their team has been for the past 2 or 3 years. How do they fix this?
There's only one fixable thing they need to do. Fire Mike Goldenholzer. Because that dude is a clown in the playoffs. He's just a clown. He doesn't make any adjustments at all. That would be the big fix. But in terms of for this season, I don't know, make another trade to improve that bench depth. That's the only thing I could think of for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, for the Bucks, I mean, they really got to push more into these playoffs. We saw they left in the second round, obviously to the Heat, who made it to the finals. But I think moving into the future, Giannis just signed the Supermax. You can't go out in the second round with the guy who signed the Supermax. I mean, unless you're the Jazz and Rudy Gobert. But other than that, you have to. I say have to make it to at least the Eastern Conference Finals this year to prove that you guys aren't just a fraud and that you actually have potential to win a championship, or else Giannis is gonna be like kind of in a weird situation where he's like, why did I sign the Supermax with this team if we can't even make it out of the second round? So I think that you have to show Giannis, and obviously he has to show other people too that they are as valuable as they seem and make it to at least out of the second round is what I'm trying to say.
I'm completely with Tejas. Mike Budenholzer has to go. He's won Coach of the Year, but like that doesn't really mean anything. We saw Dwayne Casey won Coach of the Year, and he got fired. And the next year, they won a championship with Nick Nurse. So everyone knows that in the playoffs, Mike Budenholzer is not a good coach. I can list out a lot of reasons as to why this is a playoff game, closeout game, not closeout game, but playoff game against the Heat. Number two, playing Frank Mason and running a 12-man rotation in a playoff game against the Heat. Number three, not playing Wesley Matthews more and playing Pat Connaughton over him. And number four, trying to make Eric Bledsoe a spot-up shooter. So, all these reasons are because obviously I'm a Heat fan, so I watched that series and I was very appalled as to how Mike Budenholzer was running their offense in the playoffs. Where like their center sags off and it gives the guard a lot of space.
Yep. I
pull up for a three. And Dragic was taking advantage of this.
Yeah. That's called a drop system. It's where when they come off the pick and roll, the center sags, and so the guard either shoots a three or gets a wide open mid range. Like it's a terrible system that he runs.
Yeah, and Brook Lopez was just giving Dragic so much space, and he was just making them pay every time, and they weren't adjusting whatsoever. And not only that, to have the defensive player of the year not have the assignment of the player who's going off in the fourth quarter is appalling to me because Jimmy Butler was torching them, and Giannis was, I think, it might have been Jay Crowder. So, it was terrible. And he has to go in order for them to be successful, in my opinion. Moving on to the next team, though, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think I'll go for one thing they have to fix is that power forward position. Now, I like everything about this team apart from that position because whoever the power forward is, whether it's Jake Layman, Juancho Hernangomez, I don't know. They cut Rondae Hollis-Jefferson for some reason. It just defensively makes them terrible. And they don't really do much offensively either. They have to find a power forward that can at least contribute. Kind of like the Heat, because the Heat's power forward situation is non-existent as well. But the Timberwolves need to find a power forward that's better than Jake Layman and Juancho Hernangomez.
Oh yeah, of course agreeing here. If they want to be any type of contender, they have to have a better power forward. And I'm pretty sure Malik Beasley is I'm pretty sure the starting small forward considering how much money they paid him over the offseason. It was like a 4-year, $72 million, 64, whatever. But I think he's starting, and they just definitely need a better power forward. And I'm not sure who's on the market right now. One guy we talked about before was Kevin Love, but I don't really. He could go back to Minnesota, honestly. Now that I think about it, that's where it started for him. He played really well there. I think that there's a chance that trade could happen there. But, I honestly, they just need to get a better power forward. Then they maybe can contest for the playoffs.
Talking about the Timberwolves, like they have all the pieces. They just need a better power forward. You were talking about it. And someone like Kevin Love can perfectly fit that void. You're absolutely right. But for the Timberwolves, they should not give up any picks. You already gave up a pick in that D'Angelo Russell trade. So I think they should just wait for the draft. Let it play out and see what happens.
Oh yeah, another thing I want to say is that the Timberwolves really have to try this year. They give up a 2021 first to the Warriors. And if they do bad this year, the Warriors could get another lottery pick. And just like that, they could fill in a spot to have Kelly Oubre come off the bench. Or, I'm not sure. They could have Draymond come off the bench, honestly. Or Kelly Oubre, depending on whatever they want to do, and take a small forward or power forward. So I think the Timberwolves kind of have to play good this season just so the Warriors don't get overpowered again.
Okay, I'm gonna just say one thing before. I don't like it because their defense is already terrible. So I think they should go for someone like a Robert Covington, who is more of a defensive oriented player, who's not as good offensively as Kevin Love, but they have one of the worst defenses in the league. I don't think bringing Kevin Love would fix any of that. Um, but moving on to the New Orleans Pelicans, one of my favorite teams to watch. I think for me, it has to be fixing their 3-point shooting because they're the worst 3-point shooting team in the league currently. Um, and which kind of makes sense. I've been saying this since the season has started. I don't know why you're starting Eric Bledsoe and Lonzo Ball in the same backcourt. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Eric Bledsoe has never played shooting guard in his career. Lonzo Ball has never played shooting guard in his career. You have one of the best 3-point shooters in the league coming off your bench. Start him and have Eric Bledsoe run that second unit because they don't have a point guard. Their backup point guard is, I think, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and he's also a shooting guard. Kyra Lewis hasn't even been getting minutes. So JJ Redick should start and Eric Bledsoe should come off the bench. I think that's how their team should be. I don't know, Hudson, what do you think about the Pelicans?
Well, you can go.
Well, look, they need to build around Zion. And I completely agree with you. I don't know where Kira Lewis Jr. is. I'm pretty sure he's like not ready yet. But like I've been watching a little bit of the Pelicans. They just seem like an awkward team to me. They don't fully utilize Steven Adams at all. Bledsoe is a spot up 3-point shooter, and he made a clutch 3 the other day against Toronto, but I mean, I really don't know what they're doing in that system. I know his shooting's gotten better, and Lonzo's been shooting better too, but like it's not there yet. So I would work on shooting, and they have a really good shooting coach in Fred Vinson. So we'll see what happens with that team.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Bledsoe did hit a clutch 3, and they have a lot of guards on that roster, honestly. With Lonzo, Eric Bledsoe, I was, call me crazy, but I was just thinking about how they had too many guards because on my career, I went to the Pelicans and then you got Randall Cobb too. So, but I think that the Pelicans are definitely not utilizing Steven Adams as much as they could. And also Kira Lewis Jr. Could be getting more playing time in there. But I do think that the Pelicans could end up having Kira Lewis starting over Eric Bledsoe, but with the way that he's playing, I don't think that that's going to happen. So, but I think that this Pelicans team needs to at least make the play-in to prove that they're to prove that they're actually a good team with the number 1 overall pick.
All right, now we're moving on to the last 10 teams. New York Knicks. The New York Knicks haven't looked as bad as I thought they would look. I predicted them to be the worst team in the league. 4-4, 3-3. They're 7th right now in the Eastern Conference. They're 3-3. So they haven't looked as bad as they thought they would. I think RJ Barrett has been playing really well. And I was not really a believer in RJ Barrett because I thought he was very inefficient in his rookie season. I mean, but Thibodeau is giving him the keys because he's been playing 40-plus minutes almost every game. And he's looked pretty good. And I think Julius Randle has also looked good as well. But obviously, we know that this team is. What weaknesses do you think they should like fix up? Like, what do you think they should do? Like, should they try to make a playoff push, or should they just try to get some young pieces for the future?
I just want to say one thing. This current stretch that they're on, it's a fluke. It is a dead-on fluke. Like, Julius Randle will not play like this ever in his life. Man is putting up triple-doubles on the regular. Like, I don't think we've ever seen Julius Randle do that. It's definitely a fluke, man. They haven't. The only big team I think they played. Well, they played a cup. Actually, they beat Indiana and they beat the Bucks. But I don't think they're that good of a team, quite honestly. They should probably tank anyway. But we'll see what the Knicks do. The Knicks always find a way to Knicks themselves. So
Yeah. I mean, listen. Like you said, it's a fluke. They're not going to end up as the 7th seed. They're going to end up at lower than the 12 seed or the 13 seed. I'm going to say. I mean, Julius Randle's obviously playing so good right now. Definitely getting my fantasy team up there. But, I think that he's playing amazing right now. So is RJ Barrett. But I really do think that at some point in time in the near future, it's just gonna happen. The Knicks franchise, the usual, and they're gonna head back. They're gonna head back south where they were in the first place.
Yep. Moving on to the next team, which is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I actually I think Tejas said this. I'm gonna give Tejas credit for saying that the Thunder suck, but I mean obviously they're not winning that many games, but they're very competitive if you've been watching them. Um, and they're actually not the worst team. They're 2-3 right now, so they're competitive, man. They have some guys on their team that fight really hard. Lou Dort has been a very good addition, not addition, but he's taken a step. And I just like how they're just running their young guys a lot, like Pokuševski, Theo Maledon, Isaiah Roby, Hamidou Diallo are all in that second unit. I was watching that game against the Pelicans. They made it pretty competitive. So, and I think Shea, I don't know if Shea's a number one option, but he's been looking pretty good. So, what do you guys think this team should focus on?
I should say one thing about the Thunder, and then Hudson can have his thing. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is breaking out, man. Like he's playing like he's playing like he deserves to be in the top 30 right now. Like his statistics are off the chart, man. And the Thunder have a 2-3 record, beating the Hornets, and forgot who they beat the other day, but they're doing a really good job. They're not the worst team in the league like people thought. And I told y'all the Thunder are not that bad at all. And I expect it to be that way. They obviously won't make the playoffs, but they're a really good team. So, they're a solid team that won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Shea's doing his part. He's the number one option on the team. Of course, they traded everyone away, knowing that they're going to tank this year. They could win games, but I think that obviously we know what they're doing. They're getting all these picks and they're rebuilding, and obviously a good starting point is Shea here. I think that they're going to end up with the number one overall pick, and they're going to end up taking, I don't even know who's in this draft class. I'm going to have to do some more research. Maybe Cade Cunningham. I don't even know. Or Jalen Green. But I do think that the Thunder are going to be a good team they're a team of the future. But for this season, there's nothing you could really wish. Maybe I think that one thing on their New Year's resolution is probably for Shai Gilgeous just to go out, like just show out this year, just to show how he could actually do when it actually matters, when they're not tanking for the number one overall pick.
Yeah, completely agree. I think the Thunder will be still competitive even if they're losing games, and that's what you ask for. I mean, the fans aren't really expecting anything too big from the Thunder. So, um, moving on to the Orlando Magic, who were 4-0, started off 4-0, and now are 4-2, if I'm not mistaken. They lost against the Sixers. Or are they 4-1? I think they might be four. They're either 4-1 or 4-2. Feel free to chime in. Um, but for the Orlando Magic, um, man, they always start off like very good,
They're
and then
four and
they
two.
just fall off.
My bad. My
And
bad to cut you off. They're 4-2.
okay, cool, yeah, that's what I thought. And they always do this where they start off really well and then they just fall off. I'm not really expecting anything too big from the Magic. They could make a run for that playing game. I think they'll make the. I think they'll be in the run. They'll be in that playing like 1 through 10 seed for sure. It's just a matter of whether they can win the playing game and be in a playoff, and be in the playoffs. But I have one question for you guys. Aaron Gordon, how long are we sticking with Aaron Gordon? Because I don't know. I don't think he's improved that much from last year. and he was a fourth overall pick. They paid him, I think, $20 million. And I don't know when that contract expires, but I think it expires pretty soon. So how long are we sticking with Aaron Gordon?
I would not stick with him that much. In fact, I was thinking about this the other day. The Celtics could possibly use that trade exception and trade for someone like Aaron Gordon and maybe Terrence Ross from the Magic, whose contracts are expiring pretty soon. That'd be big for them. But Aaron Gordon's pretty good. I know he's been playing limited minutes because he's been injured. But other than that, like, I would move off of him pretty soon though if his contract is expiring, because I don't think he's a franchise player. He's a good role player, but he's just not a franchise player.
I am completely green that the Rockets should move on from him. I mean, sorry, that the Magic should. I really do think that, I'm completely green that that Aaron Gordon is a role player, not a franchise player, which is why I mainly think that they should move on from him as soon as possible, just so that they can get the full talent out of him, as they need to trade more, like sort of like the situation with James Harden and the Rockets, where I want them to trade him as soon as possible, where he's at his fullest value before he goes down, and they can't get their best offers they could right now.
Yep. Let's rapid fire for these last couple teams. Philadelphia 76ers. Real quick, do you think this 5-1 can last? And how serious are the Sixers?
They're not serious. I'm being serious. They've gotten away with a lot of games because of Joel Embiid. And the one loss they had the other day, who were they playing? Who do they lose to? I forgot who they lost to, but I think this stretch is a fluke from them. I just don't believe in the Sixers. They always pull this off. I just don't think they're legit at all. They don't have enough shooting, I think, to get them past.
Same here. I really do not think that they are legit. I mean, like, I'm sorry, but like they like how it was last year. They need them to be healthy. I think that they could have taken at least one. Then they got to really stay healthy, especially with like Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons, especially after he went down and couldn't play in any of the playoff games. So I do think I think that the Sixers are going to have to try to